Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to have a look at a new Indian vehicle that is coming in, and it is the Vijayanta. Now, unfortunately, they've removed the T90S from the files and replaced it with this. Now, it would have been nice to see both, but one of the interesting things about these types of premiums, especially since this is coming in for India, is premiums like this can kind of see or spark interest in whether it's worth bringing in a subtech tree for a nation or not. You may think about Israel, how Israel had the Magaks come in, and then also the Makavas for America, and then also you have stuff like the SDRVs, the Centurions, which came in for the British, and then both of those eventually became independent nations of their own. This, the Vijayanta, could easily show that India may come in the future if enough people show interest in a vehicle like this. And since we already know stuff like the T90 is ready, and also India imported a lot of designs as well, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to see something like an Indian subtree in the future, especially since India is always a growing market when it comes to video games, and also if you can tap into that population of over 1 billion people, it can be pretty useful for your brand. Then, the Vijayanta has access to some pretty cool stuff. It's pretty much a Vickers Mark 1, which has been slightly modified and built by the Indians. So, it has access to the L7A1, the stabilized good old L7. The 105mm is super strong, one of the best guns at this BR. So many vehicles use the L7, it's completely nuts when you think about it. Then also, you have the loader, commander, gunner, and driver. The commander doesn't have gunner controls, so you are just limited to the gunner for that. But generally, if the gunner's dying, so is the commander, because of how close they sit next to each other. They're basically very buddy-buddy. The vehicle itself is just shy of 40 tons and also has a 608 horsepower engine. This means for a medium tank it can actually move pretty effectively and has access to a transmission that aids that pretty well. It also has this first stage ammo stowage of 11 pieces, which means that wherever you shoot on the vehicle, you're going to do damage to it, because this takes up the space of the ammo which could be here, but if you take 11 rounds, you still get shot there and you still blow up, which kind of sucks. So the only place to really not do damage on this thing if you hit it is slap bang in the center, and then at that point you take out the engine and the turret anyway. So one of the problems with the Vickers in general is its armor. There's a lot of other vehicles at this BR which has pretty decent armor, stuff like the Conqueror, especially with the modifications on top of it, but the Vickers or the Vijayanta is just not up there. You got a 60mm upper glacis, then you have an 80mm lower glacis, and then 80mm plates on the turret. This is not going to stop anything. You can see here 100mm of effective thickness at 8.0. That's going to do nothing against heat slingers, going to do nothing against APF-SDS, or pretty much anything. And then on the sides, 30mm and 40 on the turret as well, and also 20 on the back. The key of this thing is not its armor and its ability to take a punch. Its ability is a knockout punch with its gun, followed up by a very quick uppercut because of the reload rate. This thing out reloads most vehicles and all pretty much L7s in the game, with a base reload of 6.5 and a top reload of 5 seconds, which if you compare it to other vehicles that are around the place, such as the Chieftain Mark 10 with the the L7A1, it has a standard 8.7 second reload rate, showing it's a lot slower than the Vickers platform. It also has access to a bunch of grenades, kind of haphazard if I'm honest with you, but that's because of this light here on the vehicle, but it does look a little bit asymmetrical, which kind of sucks for the vehicle. Secondary weapons include some 7.62s, two of them, one in a coaxial mount, one on the top, and then it has a ranging 50 cal as well that you can use for the vehicle, which is nice. That means that this vehicle has access to APDS, but also Hesh, not surprisingly. And another thing is it actually gets access to heat FS, which is kind of odd, the M456 shell. So this thing doesn't just have to rely on APDS, you also get access to the heat, which is nice. And all of the other standard modifications, such as smokes, artillery, and all the mobility and stuff you'll get for free because of the simple fact that it's a premium. So recently they added in the Khalid, then also that you had the Challenger DS that they added. So rank 6 for premiums is absolutely jam-packed, but rank 5 is not. You have the Mark 5, which is a Battle Pass vehicle, and the Avery, which I know a lot of people like, but it's not exactly what we class as efficient of a vehicle. This, the Vijayanta, will be efficient, because it's basically just a Vickers, and a Vickers is incredibly good. One of the problems with it, though, no additional camouflages. I'm sure that will change going forward, since usually vehicles get at least like some form of camouflages on it. So the strengths of this thing are really nice. The gun and its reload, super good. Mobility, also super good. The Vickers is one of those vehicles that can easily carry games, especially for the British, and I have done many times with many different Vickers, whether it be the early one or the Mark III, or even just the standard MBT. The muzzle velocity on the APDS is pretty good, same with the heat FS, and with the reload that you have, you can just keep firing rounds over and over again, and if you do crippling damage to an enemy, such as taking out the gun, taking out the driver, or taking out the gunner, you'll be able to follow up super quickly with another shot to finish it off, which is the huge skill of a vehicle like this. And with its standard stabilizer basically always being in use, meaning that it never has any issues with bouncing up and down, and also the gun depression being pretty decent for the vehicle as well, you can just march across the battlefield and just annihilate stuff as you go. I always enjoyed the Vickers way more than pretty much any of the other medium tanks for Britain because of all of these reasons. You know, it's nice just kind of having a platform that's pretty nippy, has good targeting speed, has good reload, and also has decent rounds when they actually work. And that's all that this Vickers gives you. And it's nice to just see some Indian representation in the game. Hopefully we get some crew voices for them. At the moment, there aren't any crew voices for India. Instead, you have to use the British ones, which I'm sure will probably annoy some of the Indian lads and lasses who play this game. But overall, this is a good vehicle. You know, it's one of those standard ones that people will enjoy. There's nothing wrong with it, and it represents another country in War Thunder, which I personally think is pretty nice. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Kupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R., and Lafouche for supporting the channel.